Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm going to be sharing this raccoon illustration that I painted in my sketchbook. This is a little piece that was inspired by a photo that I saw on Pinterest that I absolutely loved, and it's completely different from anything that I usually do. And I feel kind of funny saying things that I usually do because I kind of don't usually do things, I guess, if that makes any sense. So, as a fledgling artist, I consider myself still kind of like a newbie at everything. I don't really have a style, and I'm not really worried about that. I mean, sometimes a little bit because it gets a little bit frustrating to paint something, and when you look at the collected body of artworks, they look completely different from one another. Like they're made from different artists, and that makes it hard for me to feel like my work is good enough, and especially good enough to show people. So when people ask me about seeing my art, I kind of feel almost embarrassed to show them because everything just looks so completely different from one another, and it makes me feel like I look like I'm possibly scatterbrained or something like that. And it kind of feels that way sometimes when I'm off experimenting with paintings in my sketchbook, and it's fun to do in the moment, but sometimes I feel a little bit frustrated by that. And I think a big part of that frustration is going on social media and consuming all these artworks that get posted by everybody who are amazing artists who are a completely different part of their journey, and they have more or less found their style, their process. They know what to do, and they're very comfortable getting the result that they expect. And I'm just not at a point where I can really truly expect a certain result because I'm still experimenting. And I think that's a good thing because it's good for artists to not just box themselves in right away and try different things and see what works for them. But then I remember the reason why I started an Instagram account in the first place and wanted to share on YouTube is because I wanted to share these difficult parts of my art journey and to talk about hopefully how I overcome them. And I think that's something that a lot of artists can relate to because we all have to start from somewhere. And except for probably very few very naturally talented people, we all have to work really hard to get skilled in this craft. And when social media is full of accomplished artists who are very comfortable with their process and come out with very predictable works, it's hard to learn, I think, because they're not really there to teach you or show you their struggles. It's hard to understand how to go from one struggle and overcome that. Like right now in my artist journey, I'm focusing on finishing illustrations, and that comes with a whole host of different sub-challenges because there's so many different parts of an illustration that are a challenge in themselves. So you have the composition, you have the color scheme, and you have to think about the story and if the colors and the stylistic choices you make more or less relate to that story and suits your character well if there is one. And those are a lot of things to keep track of and to get right stylistically and technically as well. And that's the part that's really hanging me up lately, is not just the act of finishing it, because you can finish something and not have the result you want, but figuring out the why of why I'm not happy with something and how I'm going to get past that. And so that means identifying every single thing that I'm unhappy with. And for the most part, it seems that it's really hard for me to figure out sometimes basic things like, how do I outline something? Do I even want to outline something? And I don't see that issue of figuring out edges as something that a lot of people really talk about. And to me, edges are a really important consideration in artwork because they add a lot of character. I feel like people maybe don't necessarily notice them because they're looking at the overall drawing, but it can really add a lot of information about depth, and you can use it as a tool to emphasize or de-emphasize certain things. I wasn't really happy with how the edges came out on this painting, especially after I went in with the colored pencil, and I think what the problem was that I was a little bit overzealous and started outlining everything a bit too much when I really should have only been doing some edges and not all of them. Like, I didn't have to outline all the parts of the leaf because now it just kind of makes it look flat. So if I were to redo this, I think I would lay off on outlining everything 100% and just do it only where I think is needed to show a little bit of contrast. Overall, even though I like how this came out, I think I'm going to stick with how I had already been drawing my raccoons. I like to put my raccoons in silly comical situations, and I feel like the big kawaii style eyes really draw too much attention to the raccoon and how cute they are, where sometimes I just really want to show the rest of the context, and I think the eyes are too distracting overall to do that again. So I hope you enjoyed this painting exploration, and if you want to see more, please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing, because I'll be posting more of my art journey every week. I'll see you next time.